Okay, an important topic when it comes to network security. Let's talk about network scanning and discovering different vulnerabilities on various network devices. Now, network scanning is important because it is the first step when wanting to secure your network. You must first know what is your network consisted of, which devices are inside of it, what services are those devices both running and using, and if those services have any known issues or vulnerabilities. But let's break this down a little bit. First, let's mention what is our goal. Our goal is to discover any issues or vulnerabilities inside the network, no matter what that might be. Whether it being a known vulnerability, or some type of a misconfiguration or unwanted traffic, we must first discover it, then take care of it. The first part in the network scanning is figuring out which IP addresses are active, and once we do that, we can perform a port scan. Usually, we want to scan every device on the network, which will then result in knowing which ports does each of these devices have open, closed, or filtered behind the firewall. After that comes discovering services that are running on those open ports. Usually when a port is open, it will run a certain service there that might be useful to other devices on the network. An example would be an open port 80, which is commonly used for HTTP and for accessing a website. If we find a device that has port 80 open, then it most likely also hosts a web page on that port, which we can then check by typing its IP address in our search bar. After discovering services on those open ports, we ideally want to figure out what software and what version of software is that service using, which we can use that information to find out whether it has any known vulnerabilities or issues. Now, besides finding vulnerabilities by scanning ports in the network, we also want to see whether there is any malicious traffic inside the network that already exists, or whether certain attacks such as man-in-the-middle attack are possible and if they're taking place at any time. But things like this we will do later. First thing that we will do is the most important, which is port scanning. Now, let's recap real quick what we want to do. So we want to scan all devices on the network to figure out what ports they have open, what services are they running, and what is the purpose of all the specific devices on the network. This one is also important. Any additional device on the network that isn't being used or needed performs additional threats, so we also should be interested in what purpose all the devices have. Now, this mostly refers to when testing company networks. And besides this, we also want to check the overall security of the network. If we do find, however, a vulnerability on some device, we would want to put it offline, patch the outdated software if possible, or if not, we would install a different software for the same task that doesn't have any known vulnerabilities. To start with all of this, we will take a look at a rather complex port scanning tool, which is called Nmap. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture.